All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The Bedlam game has been pretty one sided over the years in favor of the Oklahoma Sooners. As coming into today's meeting with the Oklahoma State Cowboys, the Sooners held an advantage of 91, 19, and 7 over the Pokes. But today's Bedlam affair held more of a significant meaning due to the fact that this will be the last time in a very long time that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State will face off on the gridiron, as the rivalry will never be the same, as it is another one that is set to bite the dust courtesy of realignment in college football. Now, there's no love lost between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And because of that, you expected today's game to be a nail biter. It was Oklahoma State that was able to prevail today at Boone Pickens in a game that is going to be talked about for a very long time. Oklahoma State jumping out to the early 17-7 lead in the second quarter, only to see the Sooners come back and take the lead in the third quarter. From that point on, it was a back and forth affair. The defenses created turnovers, and Oklahoma, from their standpoint, they're speaking of those turnovers, they're going to lament the three that they committed this afternoon. But in spite of all of that, this game is going to be remembered for the pass interference on Sooners wide receiver Drake Stoops that was not called. And I guarantee you, the folks in Norman are going to be talking about that one for a very long time. Also, Oklahoma only possessed the football today for just under 23 minutes. And on the flip side, if you're the Cowboys, what a turnaround, because earlier this season, we didn't know what we were going to see from Oklahoma State. They lost by 26 at home to South Alabama. They then followed that up by losing their Big 12 opener at Iowa State. But now they came into today's contest riding a four-game winning streak, and they were obviously able to keep that momentum going. Now, when you think about Oklahoma State under head coach Mike Gundy, it's all about that passing offense. However, the Cowboys have been getting it done on the ground. And Ollie Gordon, 33 carries for a buck 37 and two TDs. And when you're able to run the football that effectively, that much, obviously you're keeping the opposing defense on the sidelines. Hence why the Sooners didn't even possess the football today for 23 minutes. Now, for Oklahoma, they got off to that strong start. A lot of people are thinking about maybe this team gets to the college football playoff. Those thoughts are now in the rearview mirror. Why? Because the Sooners have lost their last two. Of course, we saw them get upset on the road last Saturday in Lawrence against Kansas. So now they're out of the college football playoff picture. They still have an opportunity to win the Big 12 in their final season there, yes, but the road to Arlington from this standpoint is going to be a little bit tougher. And if you're Big 12 conference commissioner Brett Yormark, you might get your wish, because yes, you know that Oklahoma and Texas are set to go to the SEC, and of course, there's no love lost between the conference and Oklahoma and Texas over that. On top of that, it was looking like possibly we could have an Oklahoma Texas meeting in the Big 12 championship game, and that'd be great for Oklahoma and Texas. But if you're Brett Yormark and you're trying to like sell your new league, how are you going to go out there and have two party members be the ones that go out there and win the championship on their way out the door? So Oklahoma can still get there, but they're going to be fighting an uphill battle from that standpoint. But on the flip side, for Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy will never have to buy another drink in Stillwater again. Of course, he's an Oklahoma State lifer, was a starting quarterback there, was a teammate of Barry Sanders once upon a time. But at the end of the day, you look at what he was able to do, because typically when you've got a rivalry game, an in-state rivalry game, there's no love lost. And of course, when you think about in-state rivalries, of course, Auburn, Alabama is always at the top of the list. Texas A&M, and it's unfortunate that that rivalry was put on suspension, if you will, for so many years, with A&M going to the SEC. But now Texas is set to join them there, and there's so many other in-state rivalries around the country. And of course, some of them are going to die this year as well. You think about Washington and Washington State and Oregon State. And of course, people not in that region in the Southwest, they might not understand how much of a big deal that this is because, it goes back to the days when Oklahoma State was Oklahoma and A&M. The Sooners and the Cowboys have been in the same conference together for so many years, whether it was the Big Eight or the Big 12, you name it. And now that is not going to exist. And of course, when those things happen, you always want to be the last team to say, hey, we won the last game. And of course, Oklahoma State now has those bragging rights. And Mike Gundy, for all it's worth, might get a statue outside of Boone Pickens when it's all said and done. But at the end of the day, today was good for Oklahoma State. Of course, we saw the fans storm the field at Boone Pickens. It was bad for Oklahoma because not only did you lose, and you're probably out of the playoff picture, you lost the last Bedlam game, and of course, you knew coming in there had to be a winner and there had to be a loser, and of course, somebody was going to leave Boone Pickens today on the wrong side of the score. And unfortunately for the folks from Norman, it was their beloved Sooners. And honestly, as bad as it is for Oklahoma right now, I think that it's even worse for college football as another rivalry is biting the dust in favor of the pursuit of money. And it's unfortunate because we've seen it. People, outside of that region don't understand how important it was to see Kansas and Missouri play together on the basketball court. And of course, that rivalry went by the wayside when Missouri decided to leave for the SEC. You think about USC Stanford, with the Pac-12 set to break up. Of course, I talked about Washington, Washington State. You think about Syracuse, Georgetown in basketball, so many others. And to me, rivalries are what makes sports. And of course, obviously, the landscape of collegiate athletics has changed. There's no loyalty between conference and school, vice versa. As ADs and presidents, they're all about getting the money from and getting the most money from whomever they can get it from. So this is a bad day for college athletics, in my opinion. But getting back to the Cowboys, they control their own destiny now to get to Arlington. They've got 3 more games in this college football season. Of course, we saw several one-loss teams come into play today in the Big 12. Nobody was undefeated. Now we've seen Oklahoma lose. We also saw K-State lose at Texas. So now there's a possibility we could see Texas, Oklahoma State. They're in the driver's seats, respectively, to get to Arlington. But for Oklahoma State, they're at UCF next week. They're at Houston, and then they finish up at home against BYU. And for the Sooners, they still have an opportunity to get to Arlington. They're going to need to take care of their business and maybe possibly get some help. But it starts next Saturday at home against West Virginia, then at BYU, and then finally against TCU. But Oklahoma defensively has not played well over their last couple of games. They were able to escape at home against UCF. Of course, that was not the case last Saturday against Kansas. They played better defensively today against Oklahoma State, but they just were unable to make key plays. And again, a lot of people for a very long time are going to be talking about the pass interference call on Drake Stoops. That was not called. So for Oklahoma State, you're riding a wave of momentum right now. You got to keep it up in your pursuit to win the Big 12 championship. And that's the thing. It's a week to week thing when it comes to college football because we've seen teams look like world beaters one week and come back and lay an egg the following week. So if you're Oklahoma State, you got to keep your foot on the throttle. And for Oklahoma, they got to try to find a way to get back on track. So it's going to be on Brett Venables and his coaching staff to get his team ready to finish out these final 3 as they look to win a Big 12 championship in their final season in the league. But nonetheless, we expected Bedlam to be Bedlam. It lived up to the hype and then some. And for Oklahoma State, they're riding off into the sunset of this great rivalry as winners. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.